Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 4 of A Course in Miracles. We're going to read a little bit from the manual today, and then we're going to read lesson 4 and practice. I'm reading from page 15, Distortions of Miracle Impulses. Your distorted perceptions produce a dense cover over miracle impulses, making it hard for them to reach your own awareness. The confusion of miracle impulses with physical impulses is a major perceptual distortion. Physical impulses are misdirected miracle impulses. All real pleasure comes from doing God's will. This is because not doing it is a denial of self, capital S, self. Denial of self results in illusions, while correction of the error brings release from it. Do not deceive yourself into believing that you can relate in peace to God or to your brother with anything external. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. Just a little something to start your day, my friend. Just a little magic to start your day. Not the kind of the Course in Miracles speaks of magic in a bad way, but I'm saying everything the Course in Miracles offers us is just pure, beautiful, miraculous magic. Which takes us to lesson 4. So that little paragraph supplements this lesson, in my opinion. And so the lesson 4 is, these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. This miraculous lesson, for me, was when I really embodied and experienced like a deep miracle. This lesson gave me a tool in my toolbox that I still use to this day. This lesson, if you please remember this lesson for the rest of your life, and you call upon this lesson whenever suffering is taking place, it will set you free. Again, like I said before, all the lessons are so incredible, but this particular lesson is such a powerful tool. This is like a hammer. It is like one of these tried and true tools that is such a gift from A Course in Miracles. So let me read the lesson to you. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as a subject for the idea. Do not, however, select the thoughts you think are only bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad thoughts. None of them represent your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond. The shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different forms. The aim here is to train you in the first step towards the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. I just want to take a minute to pause here and to see how the paragraph that I started all of this with, how it's so important for us to anchor into the capital T truth and to not get it twisted in the power that our connection with peace has in our lives. And the main block from that peace, from the capital T truth, and from our power as human beings, with an emphasis on the being, is thoughts and these misdirected thoughts and these lower thoughts and basically the thought matter. And if you happen to be a cerebral person like I am, and that was a great link to my clinical depression and anxiety for most of my life before my spiritual awakening, was my cerebral nature. So my mind was very busy with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of thoughts and judgments and beliefs. So much so that I was completely divorced from the present moment many times. And that's why I loved exercise so much, is because it really got me into the present moment. Some really hard exercise. I had to be like really physically exerting myself to be in presence. And so I loved exercise. I loved being in nature because that brought me into presence. But outside of those two areas, I had a lot of a struggle internally because the nature of my mind was such that constant attachment to every little thought and taking every little thought in my head as reality, as my lived experience. So if you happen to be like that, if you happen to be a cerebral individual who doesn't really yet have access to the present moment and to the peace that passeth all understanding, this lesson is going to be a tool that you will likely experience a great deal of peace from. And I would love it if you would put in the comments how you experienced the lesson today, and share any tips and insights that you got with fellow students here of A Course in Miracles. Because it really is so nutritious to hear, oh my God, when I did this lesson, I experienced this or I experienced that. So please share how you found this lesson. I personally use this lesson all the time, especially in moments of intense situations, intense challenges. These thoughts do not mean anything. It's so freeing. So it is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about blank does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are for the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with the thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. And this is a really important part also, the portion about the proclivity to be preoccupied, especially for the cerebral minded, for those overthinkers, for those who tend to want to get the answers up here. I was one of those people. It's like, give me the answer. I want to understand. I want to know. I want to get the information. Let me really figure this out. There's nothing to figure out today for this lesson, and just for the remainder of our lives. There is nothing to figure out. The minute the ego's trying to get in there and figure things out, that's when you know the ego's gotten in there. That's one way to get out of suffering, is to stop trying to figure things out. So when it comes to this lesson, please keep it really simple. You're just going to hold on loosely, like that song that's before my time. I don't know the name of the band. Hold on loosely. Hold on loosely to paying attention, being mindful. Watch your thoughts. Watch what they're doing. These thoughts do not mean anything. Just being mindful, just watching your thoughts throughout the day. This was very easy for me in the beginning because, like I mentioned before, I had such a heavy pain body, as Eckhart Tolle calls it. I had so much pain, and I was already in that witness consciousness, so I could notice my ego wanting to use 1,000,001 excuses to feel the pain. Oh, these thoughts do not mean anything. And then I noticed that the more that I just sat in that awareness of watching, just that watchful eye, what this lesson requires is just a basic practice of witness consciousness, meaning just being mindful of what you're thinking. That in and of itself is so healing to our entire lives and to our being. So let us today just hold on loosely. Don't get preoccupied. Let's not obsess. Let's just take a nice, gentle, just, it's almost like a little, like this is a stance. It's just, yeah, these thoughts don't mean anything. It's like this. We don't want it to be like this. We don't want to be like, oh, like, and we don't want to like fight with our thoughts. We just want a gentle, like, I see. It's like bird watching. Okay. There's a bird. Doesn't mean anything. There's a bird. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them have big wings. Some of them have little wings. All of them are just beautiful little birds passing through. Okay. So let's just take a minute, just a quick little minute to do a quick note. Just let's watch our minds. Whatever you brought to the lesson today, let's just take a minute to close our eyes and say these thoughts about this thing don't mean anything. There's nothing to figure out. We're just simply dropping that into our reality when we're just going to let that be the anchor of our day today. Okay. A very easy lesson, very effortless lesson, very laid back lesson. Let's just rest our chin on our chin on our fists and just, yep, these thoughts do not mean anything. Enjoy the lessons today. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next lesson.